Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada. And welcome to the Wednesday evening reading and discussion of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the unedited version by Srila Prabhupada for distribution globally. And we have been conducting these classes for over 2 years, I think up to 2 years now, as part of our campaign to preach and present the philosophy to other people. Social media is one way of presenting the philosophy to others. There's also personal activity that we carry on in our local areas to introduce Krishna consciousness to other people. And then the personal practice of this process by our membership, the chanting of rounds, the following of the regulated principles, and the distribution of prasadam. This is a very important weapon for defeating Maya, which is all around us. And a devotee must be strong in the battle. And that strength comes from personal practice, self-discipline. Back in the days, Yashodanandana, we had these temples that Prabhupada started. And we all joined, we were part of it. There was some momentum there, even though internally there was obviously a lot of difficulty that was brewing with the so-called leaders that were operating them back then. There was trouble all the time. But nonetheless, there was strength in numbers back then. And we all felt some shelter. But things have changed, very much so. And we go over that history from time to time in our discussions, just to give people that are interested in understanding what is truth and what is mistruth, or an ability to see it from a perspective of those that are devoted to Prabhupada and his legacy without any adulteration. Very important point, because fundamentally this is how you become connected to Krishna. Prabhupada was mentioning Yashodanandana Prabhu in a lecture that I was listening to yesterday. He goes, in Bengal, there are so many gods. There are thousands of gods. People pretending to be Krishna. And this is something that has gone on in that culture for many, many years. People who are trying to imitate Krishna, whether it's his rasa dance, pretending that they are some kind of great material lovers, or pretending that they are some great teachers, the avatars, so many gods Prabhupada laughs. Yes, so many gods. But they're fake. Just like currently in the ISKCON movement, there are so many people claiming to be Acharya. There are all kinds of padas, this pada, that pada. I think they might have dropped some of those names, but some of them, they just allow them to go on in the back rooms. And when people say something, they'll just say, oh, well, my disciple made me do it. My disciple is responsible, not me. Instead of explaining to people that are supposed to be following you the truth of the matter. Because truth is how you get connected to Krishna. It's through the proper link with the disciplic succession, and this is potency. There is a potency in that. So we're not a big society, we are trying our best to work together cooperatively, all of our members globally. But we are on the path of success because of our commitment to the legacy, protecting the legacy of Srila Prabhupada. And this is our mission. And we know that Prabhupada underwent so much austerity in the early years. And it's interesting to note, Yashoda Prabhu, that I've been reading, just to follow up on our diary studies, I've been reading the Leelamrita version of Prabhupada's history. And there is no mention of Paul Murray on the Bowery. It's some kind of David. Prabhupada, we're reading every day in the or every week in the diaries about Prabhupada contributing. Prabhupada, Paul's landlady came for rent. She is promised for paying rent on Monday. So that's what we're going to read today. Where's David? I think it's David Cohen. Who's he? All of a sudden, Satsrup has written some kind of fabricated group of people that are not mentioned in Prabhupada's diary. Very, very bewildering. We should try to investigate this. How this person is misrepresenting. Obviously, he wasn't reading the diaries. That's apparent. He makes a nice description of the Bowery. He describes that there are bars on both sides of 90. 92, Prabhupada had referred to 96. There seems to be all kinds of bars around them. There were all kinds of people drinking and carrying on in these places. He gives a detailed explanation of the streets of New York and what it was like. Okay, it's a nice visualization of the environment. But the real essence of this, Prabhupada's explanations of how he was conducting his Sankirtan mission and how he was diligently following it, have been left out by the author. Left out, my friends. So cautiously, if you do see these so-called biographies manufactured by this person, be very cautious when you read them. So personally, I'm very disappointed in him. He doesn't mention the purchase of the Toronto Temple, barely in the biographies, even though it is and was the largest purchase of a church in North America for Srila Prabhupada while he was personally present. Minimized, completely minimized. No pictures. Hari Sori completely misrepresented the whole visit to Toronto in his so-called diaries. So somehow or other, this history has been convoluted by so many different people, and this is evident in black and white when you read these so-called pastimes that they've written about our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So be cautious, everyone. And we'll move forward. We're going to read from the diaries Saturday, May 21st, 1966. On Saturday, May 21st, the sunrise, the sunrise was at 4:40, the sunset was 7:13, the moonset was 8:58. Dwecha, Paul was paid $1.25 for expenses. There you go, Paul Murray. And we know he was the one that had a complete fall down with Prabhupada and started to yell at him because he was working so hard translating books. In the afternoon, there was Sanskrit class. The attendance was 10, but the collection was only 4. One boy paid for the books partly, $6. At 5:30 p.m., we started for Ananda Ashram. Paul's landlady came for rent. She is promised for rent paying on Monday. He has kept with him $75, and I will have to return the balance of collection, $25 on Monday to him. In the evening, there was a kirtan at the ashram. It was nice as usual. There was dance of Balaram. Expenditure was $1.25, and income was $10. Sunday, May 22nd, 1966. Sunrise 4:39, sunset 7:14, moonsets 10:05. Tritya, both Paul and I went at ashram the whole day. We came back at 8 p.m. It is seen that somebody came in. Paul says the door was open, there was an electric table lamp on, and later on it was found that on paper they had left one note with a chalk as blessed, it is mysterious. And later it was found that $75 was kept in Paul's drawer is taken away. I think the situation not safe. We have to arrange for safety, otherwise it is risky to remain here. The ashram paid $10 for our going there, so there was no expenditure. So another robbery at the Bowery. So Prabhupada's having trouble finding safety. Monday, the 23rd of May, sunrise 4:39, sunset 7:15, moonsets 11:03. Chaturi, Paul paid $4 for expenditure and $25 for paying rents, etc. In the evening, there was a meeting and the contribution was $8. And the attendance was about 11 ladies and a gentleman. On Tuesday, May 24th, sunrise was 4:38 a.m. Sunset 7:16 p.m. Moonset 11:51. Panchami. Today, Paul was paid $2 for expenditures. 2 letters posted, one to Sherbert and the other to Cambridge University Press. So you can see this could be very disturbing for Prabhupada to be living in a place where there was very little security. That's normal, especially from a foreign land and not being able to trust these people. Sunrise 4:37 a.m. on Wednesday, May 25th. Sunset 7:17 p.m. Moonsets or Shastis. Today, Paul was paid for expenditure $2. In the evening, there was a meeting. The attendance was about 18 heads. The contribution was $11.75. After the meeting, there was consultations about incorporation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So Prabhupada's using that specific name here. Thursday, May 26th, sunrise 4:36 a.m., sunset 7:18 p.m., moonset 0:32. Saptami, today I went to Dr. Mishra to dine with him. The expenditure was subway 30 cents. I think it was 15 cents each way, everyone. Today Paul showed his crazy mind, but he was sorry later on for his breaking in the kirtan performances in the morning service. So see here, Prabhu's constant mention of Paul Murray and no mention in the Prabhupada Leelamrita written by Satsrup. No mention. And is that it pretty much? Did we finish? Yes. So we'll move forward with the hearing and chanting of Caitanya-caritāmṛta given by His Grace Yashodanandana Prabhu, Haribol. And we look forward to the discussion with all of you on this Wednesday evening in 2024 as time marches on. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Muspat Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Sattvaresvara Smadhati Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki Jai Ramacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktamani ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khund Radha Khund Giri Godhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai Jamuna Mai ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham ki Jai Swami Bhaktivinoda ki Jai All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1.
Narayanam namaskrityam Narayanam namaskrityam Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayam mudirayat Tato jayam mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead, Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Before we begin the class itself, we will be reciting a few verses from the Adi Lila of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, chapter 1, from text 18, which describes the benefit and result of hearing this message of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Text number 18. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityanandam Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text number 19. Etin Thakur Gaudiya ke Karya Chena Yatmasat Etinera Charana Vandan Tire Morenat. These 3 deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text number 20. Grantera Rambikari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera smaraneyai vigna vinashana anayaseyai nijavanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Text 22. Se mangala charanai trivida prakar vastu nirdesha shirvada namaskaram. The invocation involved 3 processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. There are many lectures which Srila Prabhupada gave where he describes the glory and the transcendental position of this exalted literature. Today we will read a very brief lecture on Bhagavad Gita that was given in Melbourne, Australia on June 25th, 1974. June 25th, 1974. This is a lecture on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text number 22. Chapter 13, text number 22. Srila Prabhupada explains, so if we read the Vedic literature and you get full knowledge, and the essence of Vedic literature is Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam,
ABCD. This Bhagavad Gita is the ABCD of knowledge. This is entrance examination, matriculation, examination, school leaving examination. And Srimad Bhagavatam is graduate. When you become graduate in spiritual knowledge, then you can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. And when you have passed your bachelor degree, then you are postgraduate. That study is Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. So we've got 3 different status of reading capacity. We have got already 20 books, so don't waste your time. Try to understand what is Krishna and what is spiritual life by reading these books. Everything is explained there. We will proceed to the reading. Today we are reading from Adi Lila, chapter 4, from text number 202. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text 202. Anga stambarambam uttungayantam premanandam dharuka nabhyanandat kamsaratera vijane yena sakshad akshodiyan antaraya vyadayi. Anga of the limbs. Stambadharambam, the beginning of stupefaction. Uttunga yantam, which was causing him to reach. Prema anandam, the joy of love. Dharukaha, Dharuka, the Lord's chariot driver. Na, not. Abhyanandat, welcomed. Kamsaharate, of Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa. Vijane, in fanning with chamara fan. Yena, by which. Sakshat, clearly. Akshodiyan, greater. Antarayaha, obstacle. Vyadayi, has been created. Translation. Sri Dharuka did not relish his ecstatic feelings of love, for they caused his limbs to become stunned and thus obstructed his service of fanning Lord Krishna. Purport. This verse is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.262. Text 203. Govinda Preksha Nakshepi Bashpurpura Vivarshinam Ucheranindananandam Aravinda Vilochana. Govinda, of Lord Govinda. Prekshana, the seeing. Akshepi, hindering. Bashpapura, group of tears. Abhivarshinam, which caused to rain. Uchai, powerfully. Anindat, condemn. Anandam, the bliss. Aravinda Vilochana, the lotus-eyed Radharani. Translation. The lotus-eyed Radharani powerfully condemned the ecstatic love that caused a flow of tears that hindered her sight of Govinda. Purport. This verse is also from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.354. Text 204. Hara Shuddha Bhakta Krishna Prema Seva Vine Svasukarata Salokyadi Nakare Grahane. Hara, and Shuddha Bhakta, the pure devotee. Krishna Prema, out of love for Lord Krishna. Seva, service. Vine, without. Svasuka Arta, for the purpose of one's own pleasure. Salokya Adi, the 5 types of liberation, beginning from Salokya, residing on the same spiritual planet as the Lord. Nakare, do not do. Grahane, acceptance. Translation. Furthermore, pure devotees never forsake the loving service of Lord Krishna to aspire for their own personal pleasure through the 5 kinds of liberation. Purport. A pure devotee of Krishna who loves him exclusively will flatly refuse to accept any sort of liberation, beginning from merging in the body of the Lord and extending to the other varieties of liberation, such as equality of form, opulence or abode, and the opulence of living near the Lord. Text 205. Madguna shruti matrena mayi sarava guhashaye manogati ravichinna yata ganga basum buddhu. Mat, of me, guna, of the qualities, shruti matrena, only by hearing, mayi, to me, saravaguha, in all hearts, ashaye, who am situated, manahagatihi, the movement of the mind, avichinna, unobstructed, yata, just as, Ganga Ambasaha, of the celestial waters of the Ganges, Ambudho, to the ocean. Translation. Just as the celestial waters of the Ganges flow unobstructed into the ocean, so when my devotees simply hear of me, their minds come to me, who resides in the hearts of all. Text 206. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya nirgunasya hyudaritam ahetuki avyavahita ya bhaktihi purushottame. Lakshanam, the symptom, bhakti yogasya, of devotional service, nirgunasya, beyond the 3 modes of nature. He, certainly, udharitam, is cited, ahetuki, causeless, avyavahita, uninterrupted, ya, which, bhaktihi, devotional service, purushottame, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. These are the characteristics of transcendental, loving service to Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is causeless, and it cannot be obstructed in any way. Text 207. Salokya sarsti sarupya samipya ekatvam apyutam diyamanam nagrinanti vina matsevanam janaha. Salokya, being on the same planet as me. Sarsti, having opulence equal to mine. Sarupya, having the same form as me. Samipya, having direct association with me. Ekatvam, oneness with me. Api, even. Uta, or. Diyamanam, being given. Na, not. Grinanti, accept. Vina, without. Matsevanam, my service. Janaha, the devotees. Translation. My devotees do not accept Salokya, Sarsti, Sarupya, Samipya, or oneness with me, even if I offer these liberations in preference to serving me. Purport. These three verses from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29, 11, 13 were spoken by Lord Krishna in the form of Kapila Deva. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with a torchlight of knowledge. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Interestingly, in 1969, when the translation of this verse came out, the word Bhutale was translated as on this earth. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Let me offer my obeisances unto my Guru Maharaja, who is a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is always calm and joyful, and who bears the name Bhaktivedanta. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sarkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham. Worship of the Supreme Lord is naturally very sweet, just like milk is originally sweet. Just as milk becomes sweeter by adding a little sugar, in the same way, worship of the Supreme Lord becomes sweeter by first worshiping the bona fide Guru. Adadana strinam danteridam yache punaha punaha srimadru papadam bhoja dhulisyam janma janmani. Clasping a straw between my teeth, I repeatedly beg to attain the dust of the lotus feet of Srimad Rupa Goswami, birth after birth. Amshu Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadasu Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Preshtashat Karomi Svam. I am a tiny part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and am always and in every way His eternal servant. As I'm always hoping for His mercy and kindness, I offer myself to His most dear servitor, my spiritual master. Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadhadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The question has been raised by some devotees, why do we keep chanting so many of these Sanskrit verses before these discussions? Well, one of the reasons is that Srila Prabhupada in the beginning in 1966 in New York, before his Bhagavad Gita classes, he would chant several verses in glorification of Krishna, the acharyas, the previous spiritual masters, the associates of Lord Chaitanya, the associates of Lord Krishna and Radharani, like that. It is customary that before one speaks or comments on different shastras, one should offer respectful obeisances to the various personalities in the disciplic succession, to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, and to Lord Krishna himself. That is why. So we have chosen a few selected verses to remind ourselves of what is our position. We've discussed before that the author of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Krishnadas Goswami, in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta himself, although he's considered one of the most exalted devotees in our sampradaya, he presents himself as lower than the worm in the stool. That if somebody hears his name, he commits sinful activities. If somebody recites his name, he considers a very bad deed. In other words, he's expressing himself with the utmost humility. This is the position of any Vaishnava or aspiring Vaishnava. Not that one should think that he's the best devotee or a big devotee or a very important devotee. This is not the proper mentality. We see in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, there are so many examples given by Krishnadas Kaviraj of great devotees expressing themselves in a very meek and humble way. And the foremost of these expressions was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Everyone is familiar with the Shikshastakam, or the 8 verses that were written or composed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's defining what is bhakti, what is devotional service to Krishna. In the 4th verse of the Shikshastakam, he says, Nadhanam najanam nasundarim, that I don't want any wealth, I don't want any followers, I don't want any beautiful women. Then Nadhanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, my dear Lord Jagadisha, controller of the universe, I don't want to be a very famous poet. And what is it that you want? If you don't want any of these things, which are the normal aspirations of common materialistic people, what is it that you want? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, Mama Janmani Janmanishwari, that simply birth after birth, Bhavatad Bhakti Raitukitvayi. I just want your causeless devotional service. Now, this is very important, because we have seen historically how some devotees who considered themselves very advanced, very senior, very privileged, did not always exhibit this kind of humility, this kind of topmost Vaishnava mentality. We've often described how Srila Prabhupada in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam in chapter 29 has given many warnings that if a Vaishnava is not of proper understanding, is not of proper character, he should be shown respects shown to a Vaishnava, but one should not associate closely with him. And here Krishna Kaviraj is explaining what is that love, what is that manifestation, what is the correct understanding of how to love Krishna. The foremost devotees of Krishna are the Gopikas, or the coward girls of Vrindavan. Krishnadas Kaviraj is praising here the intense devotion of these devotees, and he's explaining the 5 different kinds of liberation in purport to text number 204 Srila Prabhupada explains, a pure devotee of Krishna who loves him exclusively will flatly refuse to accept any sort of liberation, beginning from merging in the body of the Lord and extending to the other varieties of liberation, such as equality of form, opulence or abode, and the opulence of living near the Lord. Now, this is a very important point, because we see in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or the Nectar of Devotion, how Rupa Goswami explains that when he was a pure devotee, all the different kinds of liberation are ready to serve him. All of these various opulences described here are ready to assist him. But a pure devotee doesn't want that. What does he want? We see in text 205 a nice description. Just as the celestial water of the Ganges flow unobstructed into the ocean, so when my devotees simply hear of me, their minds come to me, who resides in the hearts of all. We had many devotees had the opportunity to associate with Jayananda. Jayananda Prabhu was a very special devotee. Everyone knows that Prabhupada considered him a pure devotee. But the reason he was like this is because of his service attitude. Unalloyed service attitude. Simply concentrating on service. Without personal gratification, without personal consideration, he sacrificed. Interestingly, the first time we met Jayananda in 1971 at the Rath Yatra site in San Francisco, we met him, and just before that time, another devotee had come who eventually became one of very book distributor in the society. His name was Yogesh Chandra. And Yogesh Chandra at that time was driving a taxi, and we met him, and he had an amazing attitude. And he told us, do you know who is here? And we said, no, who's here? He says, Jayananda is building the carts just one block away. Let's go see him. So we went to see Jayananda, and Jayananda, very humbly, he was in his, overalls and shirt and dirty hands, building the carts with some devotees. And when he saw us, he offered his obeisances, and he pulled out a few dollars out of his pocket. He says, well, nobody has taken prasadam here. Can you go to the store, get a bag of chips and some sour cream, and we're going to offer it to Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya? And we looked at him like, wow. So we went to the store. There was a Safeway store very close by. So we got a couple bags of chips, some sour cream, and brought it back. And Jayananda, he set up a little altar. He had an altar with a picture of Prabhupada, a picture of Lord Chaitanya, and he had a little seat, and he washed his hands with some water, and he offered it to Prabhupada. And then he started to chant his Gayatri. Now, I don't know if anybody of you have seen Jayananda, but when he would chant his Gayatri, he would swerve from left to right, and then sometimes he would go back and forth, and he would get engaged in this very deep meditation, very absorbed. So after offering that, he paid his obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. So then what he did, he got some paper plates they had there, and he made paper plates like this was going to be a big event. And first, he didn't dive into the prasadam. He waited a few minutes, and then he made sure that everybody else was served, that we got some prasadam, Guru Kripa got some prasadam, I got some prasadam, and even Yogesh Chandra got some prasadam. And then Jayananda took prasadam. But the most remarkable thing is Jayananda talking about the Rath Yatra festival. The way he was talking about this, it was like a festival of unlimited service opportunities. There is so much to do with the cart and painting the cart, decorating the cart. He had gotten the permit from the city of San Francisco to have this very wonderful event. And he was talking like this was complete, total ecstasy. which it was, but he was so absorbed in talking how Prabhupada had introduced the Ratha Yatra in 1967, explaining the whole history, because the first Ratha Yatra was not a big cart, they had a truck, and they mounted Lord Jagannath in the back of a truck, decorated with flowers and flags and everything, and they took Lord Jagannath in a parade in San Francisco. The next year, in 68, they built carts. So this was like a very, very special occasion to get to see Jayananda so close. Some of you may have seen the 1970 dancing of Srila Prabhupada at the San Francisco Ratha Yatra. There's actually videos of this on YouTube where Prabhupada is dancing and he's smiling and he's jumping, and everybody in the crowd is just, it looks like everybody was being uplifted simultaneously. It was just this amazing transcendental experience of pure love of Krishna. There was no material motivation for anyone. Prabhupada was showing, chanting, dancing, and this was like very, very sweet. Now, I don't have a video of this dance, but it's available on the internet. There are nice pictures of it. There are all kinds of devotees that went into complete ecstasy when Srila Prabhupada did this dance. As a matter of fact, this was on the beginning of July in 1970. And a few days later, maybe a week or so later, Prabhupada gave sannyas to Brahmananda Gargamuni, Vishnu, Jan, and Subal. And then what Srila Prabhupada did is that he brought Madhudvisa Prabhu from San Francisco. Madhudvisa was the Sankirtan leader of the San Francisco ISKCON temple. So after Srila Prabhupada gave sannyas to these devotees, to Brahmananda Gargamuni and the others, he brought Madhudvisa from San Francisco to Los Angeles. What was interesting is that we had the pretty unique opportunity to be very close to Prabhupada's Vyasasana after the ceremony. And Srila Prabhupada got down from his Vyasasana. This was in the old temple room in Los Angeles, where Prabhupada's Vyasasana was in one end of the room and the deities were completely at the other end. And the brahmacharis were on one side of the temple and the ladies were on the other side. So at the end of the kirtan, after Madhudvisa had been giving sannyas by Srila Prabhupada came down from his Vyasasana and he started dancing. Now, as many of you know, if not most of you know, Prabhupada used to dance in a very specific way called the Swami step. It was very unique. He would sway back and forth with his hands in the hair and very gently go from left to right, from right to left. So this went on for some time. And then Srila Prabhupada started to jump. And it was quite amazing. At that point in time, I was pretty young, like 18, 19, and I could jump pretty high. I had done some, long jumping and high jumping in high school. But Prabhupada started to jump. And I realized that Srila Prabhupada at one point was jumping higher than everybody in the crowd. And I was thinking, how is that possible for a person who's that advanced in age to jump higher than everybody else? But then it dawned on me, Srila Prabhupada is not just an old man. He is an especially empowered person who has all kinds of mystic powers. It was absolutely incomprehensible, but very blissful, how Prabhupada was jumping up and down, and it was like complete, total ecstasy. Everybody was experiencing very, very sweet moments of devotion. And this was Srila Prabhupada's mercy on all the devotees who had attended the ceremony. And Madhudvisa was very close to Srila Prabhupada. He was jumping, and because Prabhupada had requested him to lead the kirtan, he was quite a very famous kirtan leader, very powerful kirtan leader. And it was like complete, total ecstasy, very, very sweet moment. And this is an example of what it talks about in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, of being absorbed in loving Krishna by hearing and chanting the name of Krishna without personal motivation, under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Haribo, glories to Srila Prabhupada. In the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, while he was personally present with us. And I thought it was interesting, your description of Jayananda's offering of potato chips and sour cream as a prasadam feast. And it brought to mind this simple quote from Prabhupada, that devotional service is simple for the simple and difficult for the crooked. In other words, it is not a complicated process. And really, Krishna consciousness is a movement from the heart of the individual. And that movement is dependent on their capacity to embrace this philosophy without any personal motive. This is what Jayananda exemplified back then, in those days, this desire to serve without any personal ambition. His only ambition was to please Srila Prabhupada, because this is the essence of our philosophy. We're single-minded in that, Yashodanandana Prabhu. Of course, we want to work with each other, and we want to cooperate with each other. Prabhupada told us this very simple principle, Krishna Katha. He said, you can demonstrate your love for me by how you work together cooperatively to serve my mission. So this is the way that you can make advancement in Krishna consciousness, is to stay focused in service to the pure devotee. Because we were reading today that a devotee is not interested in any kind of the four kinds of liberation. No. He's only interested in the position of service. Not Krishna prema, in Krishna's service. And that means service to the pure devotee. Krishna says in the Nectar of Devotion, he who says he is my devotee is not my devotee, but he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. And this is the key to understanding this philosophy. The key, the secret. And what is the right mentality of a devotee? The devotee has no personal motive, like I said. And Yashodanandana Prabhu and I were discussing earlier this week. I posted a purport from Anchalila in Caitanya-caritāmṛta. I posted it, on our PDA site. And it was interesting to note how eager people are to get information which is truthful. And within one day, I posted it yesterday morning, and this is a media where we're not addicted to social media. We're simply engaging social media to the best of our ability in any way that we can to serve Prabhupada's message. But we've had 2,500 views in one day. And I thought that Yashoda said he likes me to read forward, because I'm reading forward in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, just about finished the entire 17 volumes. And this is from Anchalila, chapter 9. Anchalila, chapter 9, text 69. And here, Caitanya-caritāmṛta explains, Krishnadas Kaviraj explains to us in his verses how we should engage in devotional service. what kind of mentality we should have. And I'll read it for us. Hopefully we can get it up on the screen. That's text 69, chapter 9 of Anjalila. Kashi Mishra continued, translation. If one engages in devotional service for your satisfaction, this will result in his increasingly awakening his dormant love for you. But if one engages in your devotional service for material purposes, he should be considered number one fool. Interesting. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that there are many materialistic persons who become preachers, gurus, religionists, or philosophers only for the sake of maintaining a high standard of living and sense gratification for themselves and their families. Now, someone could say, well, how come you're reading this? It seems like you're trying to direct the conversation in a particular way. All we're doing is explaining the philosophy according to Prabhupada's purports. Sometimes they adopt the dress of a sannyasi or preacher. They train some of their family members as lawyers and continually seek help from a high court to acquire riches on the plea of maintaining temples. Although such persons may call themselves preachers, live in Vrindavan or Navadvip, and also print many religious books, it is all for the same purpose, namely to earn a living to maintain their wives and children. They may also professionally recite the Bhagavatam or other scriptures, worshiping the deity in the temple and initiate disciples. Sounds something like we know all about, everyone? Making a show of devotional paraphernalia, they may also collect money, Neil Sharma, from the public and use it to cure the disease of some family members or near relative. Cure the disease. Spend millions and millions of dollars. That's going on. Sometimes they become Babaji or collect money on the plea of worshiping the poor, whom they call Daridra Narayan, or for social or political upliftment. Yes, that goes on as well. Thus, they spread a network of business schemes to collect money for sense gratification by cheating people in public who have no knowledge of pure devotional service. Not like Jayananda. Such cheaters cannot understand that by offering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can be elevated to a position of eternal servitude to the Lord. And this is even greater than the position of Brahma and other demigods. Unfortunately, fools have no understanding of the perpetual pleasure of devotional service. So here Prabhupada's giving us very deep insight into the qualifications of pure devotee. Yashodanandana, Prabhu, further, if you could comment.
Very important point that's being raised here. I just want to read a few, maybe a short paragraph from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya Lila, chapter 12, text 135. Chapter 12, text 135, the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, by his practical example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes back into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault-finding, and pratishta asha, the desire for name and fame and for high position, jiva himsa, envy of other living entities, nisidachara, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra, kama, desire for material gains, and puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example, one may attempt to imitate Srila Haridas Thakura by living in a solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. And here's the punchline. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar incarnation. So this is a very important point here, because we have seen in the history of the Krishna consciousness movement, this taken place so many times with devotees who were doing nice service in the physical presence, the manifested presence of the Acharya. But then these various problems develop. This is very important to recognize these things. We're not pointing the fingers at any one individual or group of individuals. We're just reading from Prabhupada. And because we see sometimes people becomes too absorbed in trying to become popular or an avatar. Very important point. Hare Krishna. Your microphone.
Yeah. Haribo, is it working?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. It's very important to note that Prabhupada's books were changed by people that he described as third-class persons. Where's the authority when a third-class person changes the book of the Acharya due to whimsical behavior? This is a serious, Krishna Katha, as you know, a very serious distortion of truth, and cannot be tolerated by devotees that are committed to this simple service of protecting Prabhupada's legacy. So that is why we're here in these programs, to hear this wonderful philosophy and become inspired. Just like Yashoda was speaking about the Rath Yatra in 1970, how ecstatic everyone was. It was amazing. And just think about it, Krishna Katha. Prabhupada started in 65. Now we're in 66. He's in May, and he just got robbed again in $75 taken out of that place in the Bowery. There was no real record of what was going on, as Vincott pointed out. It was this Leela-mrita thing was done, and maybe should be edited properly now that the diaries have been revealed. But that's for them to do. But just see, within 3 more years, like Prabhupada came to Expo 67, I believe, Yashoda, that's where you first saw Prabhupada, 67, 68, 69, and 70. And all of a sudden, he had sent the devotees to San Francisco, Mukunda and a few others, to start the movement. And here they were having a Rath Yatra festival in Golden Gate Park, like it was like a Super Bowl, like some kind of Super Bowl. So this was a demonstration how the truth can be expanded by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya through the empowered devotees, and especially in this case, Srila Prabhupada's position as the pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So very enlivening. Thank you very much. Neela Shama in Miami, Florida. He's got his hand up, and I don't want to miss him because he's always very
Hare
thoughtful
Krishna.
in his comments and questions. So please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila
Haribo.
Prabhupada.
Jai,
Several comments I would like to do. The first step
please.
was the Leela Amrita, which you were talking about, and the incongruencies of the Leela Amrita. It's interesting, back in 2011, before I knew about this whole situation of the fake gurus, I was one of the aspirants to get initiated from one of the fake guru called Radha Govind Maharaj. He speaks mostly in Hindi,
Oh,
and he resides in Vrindavan. And whenever he speaks, a lot of the Indian population, especially the Hindi-speaking population, likes to listen to him. His diction is very good. And I was sitting with him, and these were his words. This is what an ISKCON guru is talking about another ISKCON guru, the author of Prabhupada's Leela Amrita. He says, how can you call this Prabhupada's Leela Amrita? ये आप कैसे कह सकते हो? He's telling me. He says, ये लीला नहीं है. When you say Leela means what? Leela means a very pleasurable pastimes. In fact, this was Prabhupada's struggle. We are seeing him struggling. Struggling for what? Not for his personal gains. Struggling for us so that he can communicate these messages, this transcendental message in the form of these books and translations to us so that we can profit out of it. You are constantly, Vishwakarma Prabhu, talking about his diaries and the perils which he's going through. He's finding this, like today's reading itself, he's finding this place very, very unsafe. And he's trying to look for a more safe place. Now imagine Vrindavan in the 70s or in the 60s, where you don't hear these kinds of robberies and stuff like that. Why is Prabhupada facing these kinds of discomforts? It's only for us. So it is actually a sangharsh. This is what he would say. Sangharsh means struggle. So labeling it as Prabhupada's Leela Amrita itself is wrong. And for me, I refuse to listen or read or follow anything which is coming out from fake gurus, because some way or the other down the road, you would see that there is some manipulation, there is some distortion of facts. And it is worth investigating as to why this has not happened. And and the second part which I wanted to talk about is Yashodanandan Prabhu's question, or answering the question as to why we are saying the Sanskrit prayers. If you notice, before any transcendental pastime is discussed about Krishna, excuse me, there is always some prayers or some kirtanda.
yeah.
Why is it so? The reason is scientific. If you look at cymatics, cymatics is a study of sound vibrations on the physical realm, on the physical body, the physical mind, the physical brain. So when we come from a world which is fully materialistic, and we try to settle down and listen to Srila Prabhupada's lecture, or listen to even this discussion,
Mm-hmm.
these sound vibrations which emanate from the Sanskrit platform will settle your mind, make your mind more receptive to this transcendental message, leaving
Exactly.
behind your materialistic ego, your materialistic tendencies, trying to suppress them at least temporarily so that you can focus and this message can reach your heart and you always remember it. So this is one of the scientific reasons why if you go to any ISKCON temple, any other temple, whether ISKCON or not, they'll always have a small little kirtan or at least prayers to modulate your mind. So that is the second part. And the third part, which I had a question with Yashanandan Prabhu is that Prabhupada has said that real transcendental service begins after liberation.
Mm.
Real transcendental service starts after liberation. So when a devotee refuses any of these liberations, is he shying away from this particular service, which is real service, or does he want to maintain himself on the material platform? I think what is important is we need to know that the devotee never asks anything for himself, no kind of material, what you call pleasures or discomfort. It doesn't matter. He wants to be intent on the devotional service. So I would like to know your inputs into this. And the last but not the least, they will, even though if the Leela Amrita came out after the diary was what you call released or
Yeah.
found, they will what you call edit and re-edit the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, but they will not re-edit the Leela Amrita. Why? Why? No, because it's coming from a pure devotee. Who is the pure devotee here? Or should we say purer? So I'll leave that conjecture to you guys. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Very well spoken. Let's move forward. Yashoda can speak, and then we'll get Dharma Bhavana and Krishna Katha to share their insights as well. Yashoda, please.
With regards to the Lamrita, there is a little booklet that had been compiled by some devotees. I put it together, but many devotees contributed, called the Lamrita Review, which basically shows, this is before the advent of computers. It basically shows there are so many explanations of Srila Prabhupada's emotions and devotional feelings that were not accurate. If anybody wants to get a copy of it, send me an email or contact Venkat and I'll make sure you get a copy. But I'd like to give some time to some of the devotees here. I know we have Krishna Katha, Puranjan, Dr. Nilesh. There's a lot of devotees here who would like to make comments.
Okay, so let's move forward. Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas, please.
Oh, Hare Krishna, thank you. Just a couple of comments. I think for devotees who are attending the Zoom classes, I mean, many years ago, I went to the KrishnaConsciousNessMovement.com website, and I started reading some of the articles, especially about the Leela Amrita, and I was just amazed. It was so well written. It helped a lot of understanding, and I think from the Prabhupada Disciples Association, it's helping a lot the situation that helping devotees around the world come closer to that mutual kind of cooperation where the Prabhupada disciples can really start loving each other and having a little more kind of understanding of what our purpose should be and how we can work together. And I was just thinking for some younger devotees, they may have the question, how come so many of us in the late 1970s, 80s, or 90s, didn't seem to do very much or couldn't figure things out. And just reflecting back, besides having to struggle to work to support the families and kind of stay away from the temple activities, we would also read the Leela Amrita. I must have read it, 3 or 4 or 5 times, and I didn't know until later that I was being contaminated by what's being written there. You just don't know about this unless someone more intelligent points it out. So thank you for pointing these things out. And anyway, it's a very wonderful class today. I just wanted to kind of mention a couple of things. A lot of devotees were struggling to support their families, and we really couldn't even think about what's going on. The books were being edited and changed, and we didn't know. It took a long time to figure these things out. And most of us, like me, I'm just kind of slow about this stuff. Thank you.
Well, there is a master plan and Krishna is in charge of the whole pastime. This right from the appearance of Lord Chaitanya up to 2024. And all of us have to figure out how we want to fit in, how we want to be a positive part of the Sankirtan mission and help protect Prabhupada's legacy. Krishna Katha in California as well. Maybe you could make a few comments on today's class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vishwakarma and Yashodanandana. I can't help but say that what you just said, but I'll say it in a different way, a reiteration that we are instruments of Krishna in this unpredictable pastime of having so much mountain-sized deviation and then have it brought back to right the ship, so to speak. And we are witnesses so much of the time and taking
Yes.
care of family and surviving in this material world. And other times we're directly a contributing factor, right? As surrendering to be an instrument in helping this mission to please Prabhupada again, right? We know his legacy is his books. This is the deepest area of his heart. And so I've already mentioned in my first time I was able to speak that this is my absolute new focus. So there's really nothing I want to tackle or take on. Just before this evening's class started, I recently joined Facebook again at the suggestion of Vishwakarma, and I'm glad I did, because now I can get all these nectar feeds throughout the day, and it's so enlivening. And then suddenly a post from a devotee that has rendered a lot of service over the decades to Srila Prabhupada. But he's now wanting to bring up the poison issue and pick a fight, and he's looking for challengers because he's so diseased with this arrogance that he's right.
Try to adjust your microphone, Prabhu.
And
Losing sound.
Yeah.
Losing sound.
So
Losing sound.
immediately wrote him a post saying, just stop it. Let's move on. Sorry. How about now? Sorry about that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not your fault. You just have to look at it later. Go ahead. keep
It
going.
might be because of where I live. I live in the mountains of San Diego, and the service up here is not that great. But the point, though, that I'm making, if you can hear me, is there are so many devotees, disciples of Prabhupada, like this Maheshwar, that isn't focused on pleasing Prabhupada. He's focused on his own agenda, his own personal fight, which is really probably the most ridiculous waste of time there is, because it's a go nowhere topic, right? We were talking earlier today, it's a moot issue, but he wants to fight. So my focus is to bring as many people to the PDA that are serious, that want to fully engage in pleasing Prabhupada again. And I can't think of any topic and any subject and any service important than bringing
Then this. Okay.
And we're starting so many ways, but that's why I'm attracted, because this means Prabhupada is smiling again, smiling at his glorious movement that he has given us. He's saddened by it. So thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate everything you have all done for me and for my family, because even my family is noticing that I'm suddenly a much more positive person to be around.
Yes.
So
Thank
my
you.
family appreciates.
Well, good. We're very pleased to have you with us, and you're
Thank
a
you.
very enthusiastic Prabhupada disciple, and
Hare Krishna.
we're looking forward to future work. And I wanted to mention that the recent Peacock film on New Vrindavan is on social media right now. some people are saying, well, how come you're bringing this up? Well, because there are millions and millions of people watching that particular miniseries on the ISKCON group from the past, and the director of that particular series is being interviewed by the biggest podcaster in the world, Joe Rogan, who has hundreds of millions of followers. So Hare Krishna, the topic of Hare Krishna is out there. It's not something that's really sticking. No one's coming up to me in the grocery store and going, oh, by the way, I see you with your head shaved. You're a Hare Krishna. It's not really like that, but we should be at least aware of the fact that these topics are being discussed, and that's why we discuss them here. And we have someone who participated in that Peacock film presentation, just so you know, on the call today, Mr. Paranjana Tim Lee, who was very much involved, along with you, Krishna Kata, in that story. And as we know, the unfortunate murder of Sulochan and the culprits that were convicted in the courts of law for that conspiracy to murder. And maybe he could share a few, there's this picture he's just done. Here's a few, maybe he could share a few points to us today at the meeting.
Haribo, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Oh,
do.
yeah.
This is a little thing I'm working on now. Little picture here.
Okay,
Jai.
good. Quite an artist there, my friend.
So, yeah, I want to say a little bit about the Lilamrita. When it
Yeah.
was done, various devotees began to challenge that the testimony they had given for that book was not accurately made in the book.
Yes.
So what happened was Satyarup, he fielded a couple of questions, but then all of a sudden his new answer was there was a big fire at Gita Nagari and all the documents are gone. So we can't validate or verify anything now. So this was a very strange thing that I felt very suspicious right away. You mean there was a fire and all the testimony that was made to make this book is now disappeared? So we can't go back and verify any of the statements that people made. And I mean, that was one issue. I mean, other issues were that none of us were consulted. Satyarup never asked people in our group for any testimony or any history or anything. So that was also very suspicious. So I think Satyarup fudged a lot of historical facts, and even the people who were in that book supposedly didn't agree that he had portrayed their history accurately, but it was a fudge job. And then all of a sudden the evidence goes missing, which is another fudge job. So I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people don't know the history of that, how that came about. But not long after that, I think just a few years after, Satyarup had made the Lilamrita, he started writing these really wacky journals
Yeah.
where he said, I'm the guru of pills and I'm the guru of headaches and I'm staying at Howard Johnson, I'm ordering out pizza, I'm watching football. I mean, what? And he's writing all this stuff. And then he wrote something called A Life of Prayer, where he went to some cathedral and he wrote in the book, he says, I'm pounding my head on the floor, begging Jesus to save me, or something like that. I'm not quoting exactly, but paraphrasing. And even the GBC at the next Mayapur meeting, they forbade the distribution of that book. This is that book, Life of Prayer, is not allowed to be distributed in ISKCON because it was so really crazy. But one interesting thing that happened was Satyrup's secretary came to Berkeley one
Yeah.
time, And he told me that Satyrup had gone to a psychic to cure his headaches. He was going to all of these doctors and physicians, and he was spending hundreds and thousands of dollars flying all over the world, visiting psychics, going to specialists, and trying this medication and that medication. And he told me he was taking the best, absolutely most expensive medications you can get, which are a lot of psychotropic, what are called psychotropic medications. But he went to see a psychic. I don't remember the name of this famous female psychic in Seattle, and that lady just told him, "Stop! Don't come near me. You are surrounded by a big dark ball of black energy, and I don't want that near me." So
I remember this, Prabhuji. I remember.
Go ahead.
okay,
No,
yeah.
I
So
just
he's
remember
taken a
hearing
lot
it.
of yeah, he's taken a lot of sins. That's what I what I told this the secretary. I said he's taken a lot of sins, and those sins are visible to certain people. And the same thing happened with Jayatirtha. The person who took out Jayatirtha saw a big black dark energy thing around Jayatirtha because they could see, on the subtle plane, uh, what happens. So another interesting thing is that despite all this stuff, there's Shastra writing all this wacky stuff for years and years and years. Most of his original publications, like the Lilamrita and little pamphlets that he made, the perfection of chanting or little things like that, they're still being sold all over
Yeah,
ISKCON.
insanity.
So don't you know this guy makes his wacky, horrible paintings, and he's had all these headaches. He still has headaches. He even recently said, I was, suffering from headaches and again, so don't they understand this guy is not a person who should be advertised as Krishna's successor? Krishna's successor would be a person who's free of headaches and free of material suffering on so many levels like that. Uh, so it's interesting that ISKCON advertises a person like that as Krishna's successor, despite knowing all of these problems and difficulties that he has, because if they get rid of him, then, they're going to have to answer, well, how come you got rid of one of your gurus, and, that type of thing. So I just thought people would be interested to know. That was the history of the Lilamrita, the so-called Lilamrita. Haribol.
Well, thank you very much, and we really appreciate it. See, we've got a bunch of messages here. Yashoda, we're right out of time. It's already 9:35 Eastern time in Canada here, so a lot of people are on schedules, and we do want to stick to them. Shama Sundar, you have an interesting question, and feel free to call us tomorrow or at your convenience tomorrow, yes, and we can discuss your question. I'd like to discuss it with you. And we could table it for another day as well. And Prabhu, Kevin, next time we'll be back on Saturday morning or Sunday morning for Gita class and Chaitanya Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam class. So lots of opportunity to carry on this dialogue. Very enlivening program today. Very ecstatic. Extremely.
Can't agree more.
And you know what's great about it? It's all of you providing all of this extra information and bliss and knowledge that we're looking for through the association of Prabhupada disciples. And that is the true representation of this effort that we started some years ago, the Prabhupada Disciples Association. And it's a very exact words used in this particular mission. And we want to promote everyone as such, as a follower and disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada as Siksha and Diksha Guru for all of us. So all glories to the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. Let's move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna by Srila Prabhupada. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday and Sunday.
Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating. We will see you all on Saturday morning from the Bhagavad Gita class at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Canada time. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnava Vangsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathannitam Tang Sajivam Sadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya